I think one of the things we spoke about is even the change in what society and business used to reward previously and what was seen as currency. But in the current times, the world is calling for empathetic leaders, leaders that have wisdom, leaders that are human. That is what the times are calling for. Actually, my next book, that's what it's about. My next book is about rehumanizing in times of disruption.
Oh, I love that.
And anchoring that on empathy, wisdom, and humanity. Because what we are recognizing for sure is the hard, yes, it's gotten us up to this far, but it's definitely not what's going to take us forward. When we look at future skills that are critical, that are necessary, and that are trending beyond technical, what is important and critical and become even more important, especially because things like AI, they are helping with the technical, right? They can do the technical, but AI can't be human.
Hello, Alpha Female family, and welcome back to our leadership series. Today, I'm super excited because we're talking about such an important topic. We will be unpacking how personal mastery is the new leadership currency in the age of disruption. I'm with such a powerhouse, Khethiwe Nkuna. Hi, Sis Khethiwe, and welcome.
Hi, Lungi, and thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Excited to have you. So, Sis Khethiwe is amazing. She is a powerhouse, right? And she's a powerhouse because she is an award-winning entrepreneur. She is a best-selling author, the type that actually gets sold out. Authored a book called Tear Her Down, which looks at the scarcity mindset, building sisterhood in corporates, and all the things that we're going to talk about actually and unpack today. She's also the CEO and founder of SkillQuest, 100% Black female-owned. Helping helping organizations really move away from just compliance, but making a difference in people and being more people-centered. And your reputation, I mean, precedes you. You've worked for global companies across Africa, the Middle East. This book is one of its kind. So she's the girl she thinks she is.
I'm so humbled.
Welcome.
I'm so humbled. Thank you so much, Lungi.
So just to get the conversation going, I ask everyone when they come on the series, what is your favorite leadership quote?
I think for me, Lungi, it has to be, and I say this consistently and I live by it. It's not just a quote that I say and it's just words. You can't pour from an empty cup.
So important.
It's because I think with my experience just as a leader, right, and having journeyed, I've seen the impact of not prioritizing ourselves and not building boundaries for ourselves and not looking after ourselves and pouring back into our cup. It's one of the things that I think in the environments that are just continuously on a treadmill and continuously just running, people do often neglect that. But I think it comes at such a risk where if you are not taking care of yourself, eventually your system is going to shut down and it's going to result in burnout.
True.
So it's an unsustainable thing to not actually prioritize. It is so critical. So I think for me, that is the philosophy I live by. I tell everyone that if I'm not okay, no one's okay. Not my business, not my children, not my family, not the people that I lead. You know, so that is my leadership quote that I live by every single day, and anyone that knows me will tell you that
we're
this
gonna
is
come
certainly
back.
true.
We're gonna come back to that quote, I think, especially as we unpack personal mastery, but in terms of also leadership style, and I guess this goes into your leadership style. What would you say it is, and who inspired you to embody that style?
I think I refer to myself as a servant leader.
Mm.
And I think a servant to a number of things, servant to my calling and my purpose, and a servant in the hands of God for me to fulfill the mandate that He's brought me on this earth to do. And I've vowed to actually empty myself in servitude. A servant to the community, a servant to my people, a servant to my family, you know. So ultimately, that is what I refer to myself. And I think it's inspired by a number of things.
Yeah.
One, I think the first person that really inspired and that I really find a lot of inspiration in is my late father.
Oh.
So my father
May his
was
soul rest in
selfless.
peace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. My father was a selfless leader. My father had a high moral compass.
I love that.
And my father was courageous. And lastly, I think my father was loving.
Oh.
Not just as a father and a family man, but even in his leadership. He led with love, he led with authenticity, you know, so that's my first inspiration. And the second component in terms of the inspiration is my experience just as a leader and the different paths I've walked and different leaders I've encountered. I've encountered leaders that have been inspirational, leaders that have been selfless, leaders that were trailblazers, leaders that were before their time, you know, and leaders who really brought out the best in me as an individual and saw dormant talent in me and invested and poured into me, you know. But I've also experienced the opposite. I've experienced leaders that, like the topic of my book, tore me down. I've experienced leaders who are cutthroat, leaders who were going on smear campaigns on other leaders, backstabbing, insecure leaders who show up as over controlling, you know. And I think lastly, all of this then resulted in me identifying my own unique, you know, leadership style. And as a servant leader, I actually choose to lead with love, you know.
I
And
love
I think everywhere I
that.
go, that is the difference I want to make. I want to make sure that the people that I've got the great responsibility of leading feel loved, they feel seen.
Yes.
And I know for sure that by leading with love and laughter as well, that's an important one. So I think you would know my laugh from our Accenture days. Everyone that knows me knows I laugh from my belly, you know. But by me leading with love and me being my authentic self, what I then do is give people permission to be their full authentic selves and bring out the very best in them. So those are just, a few things that have inspired my leadership and the reason I lead the way that I do with intention as well. I think I'm quite intentional in terms of always showing up as this leader and consistently, you know. When we were chatting earlier on, we spoke about the fact that with great power comes great responsibility.
Amen, yeah.
So it's important to be aware of that responsibility, which is leading the people that I lead and to lead them with love.
I love that. Actually, in my organization, we have a saying that says, if service is beneath you, then leadership
is not for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%,
exactly.
100%.
And so as we talk about how you lead, there's a lot of self-awareness that I'm reading into it, right? So as our topic says, when one thinks about currency, they think about an exchange, they think about something that has value, that can get something else, right? So how in this context then is personal mastery then that leverage for us to actually get value and have some sort of exchange?
Yeah, I think the first one is maybe to define what personal mastery
Yes.
is,
Yes.
so I think personal mastery is just self-awareness at all levels
Mm.
of self,
Mm.
the emotional, the spiritual, the physical, and I think the emotional is probably the crux of
Mm.
it, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of the things that people do and how they react are things that are usually so deeply suppressed,
Mm.
relating to emotions
Mm.
that are linked to lived and past
Mm.
experiences. So that is mastering of self holistically
Mm.
as an individual. So it's the physical, the spiritual, and the emotional
Mm.
being,
Mm.
and truly understanding yourself to the core.
Mm.
And the understanding, it's not only just about the beauty in us,
Yes.
it's also acknowledging
Oh, the shadow self.
absolutely our shadow self.
Mm.
I love the term that refers to balconies and basements. So the balcony is the good parts of self, but the basement is, I think, where a lot of people fear to go.
Mm.
But you cannot master self until you actually heal all those wounds that are in the basement. That is part of the self mastery.
Mm.
It's not just looking at, I know myself, I know my strengths, but
I'm
it's also to know your triggers,
Yes.
to know your pains, to know your traumas, and to be able to watch yourself when you react in a certain way. Let's say there is Lungi who's come into my team as a middle-aged Black woman, and I suddenly react with micromanaging Lungi, overly micromanaging, which is masked as maybe it's making sure that there are no mistakes,
Yes.
but usually it's a control thing.
Yes. True.
So why am I reacting that way as a
Yes.
leader?
Yes.
That is the self-awareness of going in to say, why does Lungi's brilliance
Bring
make
this out of
me
me.
react this way?
Yes.
And I think from a currency point of view, it's really shifting, right? Previously, leadership has always been about rewarding the hard metrics, right?
Yes.
It's rewarding, have you hit the
The
margin,
KPIs. Have you sold?
which was the value and the currency that was traded previously. But I think the world we are in right now, which we'll unpack later in terms of the disruption that is happening and everything that is happening in terms of geopolitics and the wars that we are seeing, technology, disruption on so many levels. What we're cognizant of is we need a new form of leadership currency, and it's a leadership currency that is leading with love, leading with empathy, leading with self-awareness, and making sure that we are also regulating our own nervous system as leaders. Because if my nervous system is not regulated, I cannot regulate my team's nervous system.
Yes.
That is the currency.
Yes.
The currency of, in these times of disruption, we need leaders that are stern, clear, but are able to regulate and settle the disruption around their teams.
I love that. And I think also sometimes what happens in organizations is that there are a lot of changes even within the organization.
Absolutely.
There are changes in leadership, there are changes in op models, there are changes in so many things. So in a situation where the leader is not self-aware, in your experience, how have you seen that play out? In what behaviors has it played out? And how did it then impact the culture of the team?
I think I'll speak about the example I speak about in my book, right? I'll take one example from my book. So my book, Tear It Down, is about tear it down syndrome.
Yes.
Which is how we as women, I've centered it around women, but the phenomenon is not only unique to women.
Yes.
Cause harm to each other in the workplace. And the harm that we cause to each other could be in the form of backstabbing. It could
sabotage.
be in the form of sabotage.
Yes.
It could be in the form of micromanagement.
Yes.
And the reason why this would happen is one of three reasons. It's scarcity mentality, it's insecurity, and it's internalized patriarchy.
Your internalized patriarchy. Can we unpack each?
Yeah.
It starts with scarcity.
So scarcity thinking is really the belief that there's room enough for few only to succeed.
Yes. And we've seen this. If you're watching this episode, you know someone who's like this.
And
who wants to be the only one.
Yeah. And the opposite of scarcity mentality is abundance.
Yes.
Where we believe that there's room enough for all of us to shine. I don't need to unscrew Lungi's light bulb for mine to shine brighter. And talking about, for example, the leader that wants to be the only, we don't shatter glass ceilings only for us to become gatekeepers.
Say it again.
We don't shatter glass ceilings only for us to be gatekeepers.
I love that.
It's part of the responsibility I spoke about, right? Once we have shattered those ceilings, make sure that you're sending the elevator down. Make sure you're extending tables, But in terms of then other elements, in terms of the very scarcity that we are talking about, it usually continues and flourishes in environments that actually reward individualism, where the competition is then what drives this behavior and indirectly then feeds into this beast. And the consequence and the risk, unfortunately, is one, psychological safety, because you then find that women and people show up in the workplace because you don't trust who should be your sister. You then show up very guarded.
You're always looking over your shoulder or looking to throw your sister under the bus.
Absolutely. And the cost of psychological safety is directly linked to innovation. If people can't feel that they can freely express who they are and their ideas, which is linked to psychological safety, innovation is stifled. It also impacts the culture of the organization, where it's then a backstabbing culture. It's a cutthroat, dog-eat-dog world, as some of the words that people would
Hunger
use.
Games.
Yeah,
I've worked in Hunger Games.
And then the long-term impact of that is the high turnover, where people are not going to stay in environments, especially your high performers. They're not going to stay in environments like that. So these are some of the impact and things that happen due to lack of self-awareness of leaders.
And it's actually such a high cost when you think about it. Now that you've brought out innovation, it also creates a bias where everything is done according to you.
Yes.
There's no diversity. Basically, there's no diversity of ideas. There's no
groupthink.
Yes. Everyone is just moving in the same direction. And then internalized patriarchy.
So internalized patriarchy is the very systems that we are trying to dismantle in society that are inhibiting the progression of women, where women then start to model those behaviors and to police other women with those same standards. And how it can play out is, for example, she's too opinionated.
Oh, yes.
She is... There's no way for a woman to behave.
Oh, yes. What is she wearing?
Yeah, there's no way for... The tone is not
it's not
very
respectful.
Feminine tone. Whereas if a man is being assertive, a man is going to be seen as being strong, right? And if a woman is being assertive, she can then be perceived as
emotional.
Emotional, or being seen as she's so arrogant, she's so masculine. It's not perceived as strength and leadership. Actually, that's what it is. When you're being assertive, you're being a leader. Correct. And it's got nothing to do with gender. So that is how internalized patriarchy plays out.
So interesting. So if you are in a team Kengok, and like are realizing these patterns and behaviors from your leader, how do you manage or navigate that situation? Is it a matter of, because you are also a young leader, and it's easy, like you said, to either model what you see because you think this is great, you're seeing the person being rewarded, or to do differently. So how do you manage that if you're a young leader in under someone who's like a tier,
tearing you down?
Yeah.
So I think the important thing is naming, right? So it's being aware, because we can't heal from what we don't name. So it's naming the behaviors. That's the first thing. And once you name it and you identify it, it's also important that you do not internalize it and make it about you, because it's not about you.
Yes.
You know. So the importance of then, because a lot of this, how it plays out, it's very plausible deniability. It can be denied.
Sometimes it's like passive aggressiveness. Like the person is passive aggressive with you, but not with everyone else.
Yeah.
So no one is going to believe you.
Yeah, absolutely. In my book, I speak about something called the quiet undermining.
Oh.
Where in front of me, you and me,
we're great.
Yes, we're great, and you are my supporter. And on panels, you speak about inclusion, but behind my back, you are actually practicing exclusion by having a smear campaign about me to ruin my reputation and cast doubt on my capability.
Sure.
You are sabotaging me behind my back, and it's then important that you quickly understand, when you have the language, that this is not about me. And what the options that you have is, if you need to assess if the type of leader is someone that you can have a conversation with. And I also speak passionately about the fact that sometimes we live amongst psychopaths, we live amongst narcissists. So it's also important to discern when to have a conversation, and if the person can be someone you have a conversation with. And if that is not an option, it's then going the formal route of going to HR, going to a leader that you trust, to then share this. I think the biggest mistake people do is suffer alone. True. Because you think that you are imagining things, or you think you're being dramatic, or you are gaslit into believing that you are being overly dramatic.
True.
But I think keeping quiet is not an option, because keeping quiet, what that's going to do is you just build up resentment, you build up, and it's going to affect your health. And you might even start to model that very same behavior. You start to do it to other people. And I think it's important that ultimately all of this, again, is about self-awareness. Because if you are observing, because the self-awareness is also being able to read the room.
Yes.
It's also being able to decipher what is not being said.
Yes.
So it's really important to then look at things quite holistically, but the main thing is, don't suffer in silence. And I think in my book, I also give tools, because at the end of each chapter, there's a reflection where you yourself reflect about your own experience, but maybe other people's experience on
of you. I actually loved, so Katie and I were at an event, at an HH event, and I loved the reflection that you made us do. You actually had us, what was it, like a sisterhood compact, but you made us also say, how have we not supported a woman, right? And it started off as small as, maybe you didn't share that spreadsheet that you were supposed to share, or maybe you didn't accept the meeting that you were supposed to accept. So I found that really helpful, because it really made me think in both small and big actions on how I could be a perpetrator.
Absolutely.
Because we always think about perpetrators as the big thing. Yeah. It's the person that's, shutting doors or what, but it can also start
And those
very
micro,
small.
because those micro, micro experiences that people would be feeling in terms of the exclusion, micro exclusions, those over time build up.
True.
And it might not be intentional.
Mm.
It might be just autopilot, unconscious bias. We all have biases.
Yes.
But I think what's important is to bring the unconscious to the conscious and be aware. Again, self-reflection in terms of what is my role, even if it might have been unintended, that I didn't share the spreadsheet. I didn't copy the person and include them in a platform where their work is being acknowledged, but they are not being acknowledged. Where you might be in the rush of things and in the thick of things that it slips your mind, but repeated those things do add up.
True. And I think also those micro exclusions make up the experience of the next person.
Absolutely.
And a lasting impact with them. So, Sis Khethiwe, we spoke about how the world is disruptive. Technology, I mean, I can't even believe COVID happened.
And there's another virus they're talking about. Guys, please.
Guys,
we can't.
I tell my friends, I think we were born in the wrong era because we are going through everything. I too want to buy bread with 45 cents. But yeah, in forever changing times, in companies changing, divestitures. I mean, we've seen more divestitures than we've ever seen in acquisitions in our time. So why is it important, and you touched on it a bit earlier, for leaders to be cognizant of these disruptions and be nimble in them?
So if leaders aren't cognizant and aren't aware, they can't then do the task at hand, which is to lead. It's important for leaders to be able to help their teams navigate these disruptive times, whether it's disruption in the form of the org structure, op model, it's disruption from a macro level, disruption from a global level, disruption in terms of artificial intelligence. It's really important that leaders keep a finger on the pulse because they are the ones that have the responsibility of either calming, or if they are not
part
calm,
of the mess.
They are part of the mess if they are not calm. I think there's nothing more chaotic than being led by a leader who is who doesn't have a vision and is not centered and is not anchored and is not self-aware, because then everything is reactionary. There's no strategy, there's no focus, there's no blueprint. You can't anchor people because you yourself aren't anchored. I speak passionately about the fact that you can't create belonging for others if you don't belong to yourself.
Oh, that's powerful.
So again, it's about the personal mastery and understanding and loving yourself unconditionally, so that you, and with your flaws and all, so that once you know yourself, you are anchored and you are able to navigate
anything.
It's the same as, imagine a pilot.
A drunk one.
A pilot, when it's there's bad turbulence and the pilot loses his mind and he starts screaming. What then happens to everyone else on the plane?
We're dead.
That's it, right?
We're dead.
I guess that one brings it to perspective, right? Because the pilot on a plane is the most important person.
In terms of direction, we just relax.
And we often hear how come they are, right?
Yeah, we're about to leave. Here we are, Emirates. Right? And it's just like, oh.
There's a psychology behind it, right?
Yes.
So imagine then that the example that I gave, because leaders that aren't anchored are like that.
Sure. That's so powerful.
They are like that.
That's so powerful.
It's the blind leading the blind.
Basically,
the environment is chaotic. You jump into the chaos. You don't acclimatize and calm the situation.
But how do you then? Okay, so you spoke about being anchored, right? You could be anchored in different things. So some people are anchored in faith, like most of us. Some people could be anchored, I don't know actually, in what. So how would you say, what's the first sort of exercise for someone listening who's a leader, who's then realizing, Guti, actually, I myself am a spitty pit, I'm a mzuguzug. How do they start having that first reflective exercise on what and how to anchor themselves?
Yeah. So I think the most important thing is, again, getting back to people around us, So I think as a leader, having a coach is such an important thing because coaches help you see blind spots. Other options include therapy, because what you would find, let's say you are insecure, that's a symptom. The task at hand is to go deeper to say, but why am I insecure? Why does Lungi's brilliance make me react the way I reacted?
Yeah, even if Lungi is 20
Yes.
and you are 50.
I had that experience. at the start of my career. I was a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed 21, 22-year-old. And there was someone who was in their 50s who did what I spoke about to me in terms of the quiet undermining. And what she made me feel is curb your ambitions.
Sure.
There's room only enough for one of us here.
Sure.
And the vast age gap and the levels is wild, right? But it's because she saw potential in me that made her feel threatened. That realization came to me years later. But the work at hand is then to then ask, but why does Khethiwe, who's
Threaten
20,
me?
threaten me?
Me with my 20-something years experience.
Absolutely. And usually it's because there's something underlying. It could be a lot of people, I think, things that happen in adult life are usually, people's responses to trauma. You can always often link people's behaviors and those insecurities. Maybe it's something that happened in primary school.
True.
That they never
Maybe
dealt
you
with.
were bullied.
Yes.
And then now you're a bully.
Yeah.
Because it's your
it was done to
coping
you.
mechanism.
Yes. Yeah. And things like that, it can only happen, right, through therapy. And it's painful to unravel. I understand why most people are hesitant to revisit and reopen those caves and cages. But they hold the healing. So it would be a combination. And yes, being anchored is an important thing. But I think the most important thing is doing the difficult work of addressing the source. You find a lot of leaders out here. And I think a classical example is what's happening in the US. We are all collateral damage of something that happened somewhere. We're all collateral damage. Of something that happened somewhere at some level where the development seems to have stalled.
Yes.
So everyone else is collateral damage.
The
but
whole
I think
world.
So I think that's the importance, right, of self-awareness. Because if you are self-aware, you then actually say, okay, this is how I've reacted. I need to go deep and it will be painful, but I have to. Otherwise, you remain captive.
And or you can evaluate, why do I need so much control over the world? You know? Yeah.
And it's insecurity.
Yes.
Usually control is linked to insecurity.
Yeah. Sure. And I think you've already touched on some of these parallels, which are you need to go through therapy as a start and start dealing with your trauma. One of the things that I once heard was, sometimes we don't deal with you in boardrooms, we deal with your 7-year-old self. So that 50-year-old actually is some little girl Who's
Stuck.
7?
It's the same case as the US
Yes.
case that I just named
Yes.
now.
Who's just stuck.
Yeah.
So now we are just experiencing
Yeah.
that as well. So the other thing that I wanted to ask you, Sis Katie, is as the world is changing, right? How important is it for also leadership to evolve? So I loved what you said, that you're leading from a place of love. I'm sure there is no textbook. It's you lead from a place of love. It's your collective experiences and the people that you've mentioned. So how important is it for us to unlearn certain things?
It's so critical. I think one of the things we spoke about is even the change in what society and business used to reward previously and what was seen as currency. But in the current times, the world is calling for empathetic leaders, leaders that have wisdom, leaders that are human. That is what the times are calling for. Actually, my next book, that's what it's about. My next book is about rehumanizing in times of disruption.
Oh, I love that.
And anchoring that on empathy, wisdom, and humanity. Because what we are recognizing for sure is the hard, yes, it's gotten us up to this far, but it's definitely not what's going to take us forward. When we look at future skills that are critical, that are necessary, and that are trending beyond technical, what is important and critical and will become even more important, especially because things like AI, they are helping with the technical, right? They can do the technical, but AI can't be human.
True. I mean, we've seen it.
So that's it. It's really just for us to build and hone into those skills of being human. What usually previously would have been probably referred to, because I think as human beings, we've got both masculine and feminine energy.
Correct. Yeah.
So what would have previously been referred to as the feminine energy, it's the time now for that feminine energy to rise and for everyone to embrace their feminine energy, because both male and females have got both energies.
Correct.
I think the world has operated so much in the hardened and the masculine energy. It is time that we go within.
Yeah. And I actually see it, or we rather see it already with the Gen Zs.
Yes.
You know how previously the boomers, the millennials, now the Gen Zs are just like, I can't do this, or I can't work like this. Although sometimes it's seen from a lens of laziness and entitlement, but it's boundaries. And that's a different way of work. So you as a boss also has to know how to inspire that generation.
Absolutely. Besides inspire, it's also making sure that your environment and your organization is adapting to that. Otherwise, you're at risk of losing them.
True.
You know, so the workplace right now is actually 70% millennials and Gen Zs.
Yeah.
And the boomers are phasing out, but it's 3 very different generations that are in the workplace right now together.
Correct.
You know, and I think it's important that there is cross mentorship, because the boomers, they've got this wisdom and how business has been done, but they also need, there is value that the millennials and Gen Zs bring into the world of work, whether it's tech savviness, whether it's the empathy, whether it is the self-care and the mental health and inclusion, which is what the millennials and Gen Zs especially are uncompromising about.
Tina Singona millennials, we're in between. But you know, sometimes we're torn.
So I think because as millennials, we worked enough with baby boomers, you know. It's the same as if we talk about the South African landscape, where the Gen Zs are saying, but I wasn't there. The struggle thing, I wasn't there, you know. But it's important to know your history, right? So in the same context, they might not have been there in the times of the Gen Z, of the baby boomers, but it's important to learn from the wisdom of those that came before us, because no man is an island. And we are all products. I always say that I'm a product of mentorship and coaching and sponsorship, so the baby boomers did that for the millennials, and they'll continue to do it for the millennials, and now they need to also do it for the incoming Gen Zs. But there's also the reverse mentorship, which is also important, which we spoke about.
Agreed. So, Sis Katie, as we wrap up, I'm definitely buying books for people. Everyone is getting a gift, which is Tear Her Down. But also, what would be your key takeaway that you want to share with someone listening to this? Maybe as a perpetrator who is not self-aware, who's not a psychopath, hopefully, but also as a victim listening today.
Yeah, I think for me, the main aim and why I wrote the book is I hope it inspires healing. And healing can only come with brutal honesty with self. So we have to be honest with ourselves in terms of, if you are a perpetrator, I hope it's a mirror that you actually look into with depth. And you don't run away from the hard truth that you see in the mirror, because it's also written from a position of having empathy towards even the perpetrator.
I love that.
Because no one decides and wakes up to want to just be a horrible person and to suppress, unless you're a narcissist or a psychopath. But we're not talking about those right now.
Yes.
So doing that work is critical, and going within is critical. And that's why it's written from a position of real empathy and I hope it's a tool that helps the perpetrator to go within, to say, why do I do this? And actually inquire with self. And if you are a victim, I really, really hope that the book, one, gives you language so that you can start the journey of healing, because we can't heal what we can't name. There's power in language. And I really hope that the language and the tools in the book do bring healing. And ultimately, all of this can only be done by going within and being self-aware, being aware of self, where even if you read, even if it might be hard when you're reading and you can identify yourself in there, be courageous enough to go deeper in terms of the hard question of, but why am I behaving this way?
Oh, this was inspiring and thought-provoking. And I think a love letter to all of us who've either, even if we've had micro, contributions of exclusion, will now start reflecting and being more intentional. And then if you are a victim, I really hope it's the start of your healing. And it gives you comfort that not all leaders are also horrible. There are amazing leaders like the one sitting right next to me. But thank you so much for coming and joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Luna. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
You must come back.
I hope it inspires, reflection. It inspires people to actually stop and reflect and ask the why and the hard questions of themselves.
Bye at home. I think the most important thing is remembering, there's a saying I like from my organization that says, great people make great leaders. And we really hope that you take that away from this conversation. Till next time.